All right, switching over now to our next monstrous sugya. Okay, good news is it takes up about 3 blot, so we'll be in here for a little while. And this sugya is Taaseh, Velo, HeAsui. So I know everyone wants to use that terminology a lot. Let's just translate it for the time being, so no one has to ask me a million times during shir. What's Taaseh, Velo, HeAsui mean?
Has to be.
We have to make it and not from what's made.
Right, make it. You make it, and not from that which was made.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So just as you really don't have to know any facts to get into the sugya, but just be aware that this is very very abstract. Okay. All this stuff we're dealing with stuff that's not like tangible, as you can see. Like you have to be able to picture it in your mind. All right. I can't put it any other way. So just prepare yourselves. All right. The Mishnah is Yud Aleph and Aleph and Succa. David Press, take it away. And by the way, Mishnah, Hidla Aleha. What do?
You put all these things on
Trellis
on the staff.
Right, it's good. All right. Well. Okay. So I know not everyone has this book, but this book will come in handy. So if you look over here, all right. Can people see this or no? Not so much. Before we get to that, so I take something. This is obviously the ground. Okay.
Okay.
Before you ask, obviously this sukkah can't be on the ground, so let's just make it consistent. Okay. So now what happens here? So the case is that I have a vine that's attached to the ground, and I'm a smart guy. I say, you know what? I'm gonna use that for my schach.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the case. All right. David, weiter. V'sichech al gaba.
And the stock is on top of it. So it's
Well, V'sichech al gaba. He makes a schach on top of it. So he's a smart guy. He wants to use this as schach. Okay? Why not? Smart move. Puzzle. Why is it puzzle? Rashi. Psula. Stop. Right? Don't worry about the drush. But you can't be misachech with that which is attached to the ground. So the problem here is this is attached to the ground. All right? This is attached to the ground. So just now, I was mentioning to Dylan before, the immediate question you can ask immediately. What question? Don't say it. What question could you immediately ask on the problem here?
Why can't it be attached to the ground?
Forget that.
You can
That's a separate issue.
route, yeah.
That's true. So let me ask the question and then determine the question from the question I'm about to ask. There's 2 ways you could look at the schach here. What are the 2 ways? Before you even go on the mission of the Gemara, just start getting your head rolling. Right? There's 2 ways you could. I know what you're thinking already.
No, yeah.
You are, because you're thinking like something. But forget. Okay. Well, there's 2 ways you look at the schach. How can you look at the schach? The issue here, it's stuck to the ground. Okay. So what would you say?
It's not actually stop.
What?
It's not actually stop.
Okay, that's one way. One way is to say that this is not schach at
It
all.
just happened to be there.
Well, if it's attached to the ground, there's no quality of schach to this whatsoever.
Oh.
Of course, then logically, what's the other way to look at it?
It is
The ground is attached.
Accept that
Because it's just attached to the ground.
as a defect,
Yeah.
right? It's schach with a psul.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, why is the second way? We already can cheat ahead.
You
Why?
can fix it.
You said
Oh,
that
okay.
not the second one?
Now, why would the second way? The second way would make more sense.
And
Right.
if it was there was a lot of stock, or if he cut it, it's kosher.
Right. So meaning that the way to get rid of the problem is if the majority, let's say there's other schach on here and it's kosher. So in schach the rules are majority wins, but I don't care about that. That's a separate issue. Or cutting it. Now, logically speaking, at this point in the Mishnah, again, why would that? Why does that make sense?
Getting rid of the defect.
Right. Exactly. I'm removing the defect. It should be as simple as cutting it removes the defect. What's the problem?
Doesn't the other side no longer
What's the other side?
where
I agree. Right. I agree. Yes.
I mean, aretz and misachim bo. That in general, anything that's not mekabel tuma, it doesn't grow from the ground. It's not stock. All
right, so the Mekabel Tumah stuff, that's a separate sugya. What I care about is obviously Gidulam min Aretz. That's going to be the big thing, right? Gidulam min Aretz means what?
growing from the ground.
Growing from the ground. Okay. All right, Gemara. Yosef, Rav Yosef, Kamei de Rav Huna. Yeah.
We
Yosef commented Rav Huna.
should I get ready?
Rav Yosef sitting before Rav Huna, the Yisrael, the Kamar, Oshi, Katasin, Kshira, that if he cut it, it's kosher. V'amar Rav Sarech Lenaneh, and Rav says you need to shake.
Okay, now stop, because we got to do Rashi now. Okay, so we know at the end of the day it's going to be Shmuel. Okay, but just make it simple. So we had another thing here. The question is, Sitza versus Sitza plus. All right. So what's nanea?
Shaking or lifting up.
Okay, so what would you have to do? You would have to lift up. So first you cut it, and then you have to lift up each vine. Okay. So what question immediately should you ask about that?
Why wasn't I good before?
One side holds it is. One side holds Sitza is okay.
Okay.
All right. What question would you ask on nanea?
Well, I mean,
What does that?
well, what is it accomplishing?
Right. What is that accomplishing?
But I mean, you can see because now you're doing a mice placing.
It shows your stance.
Whoa! Let me get the. Who said you have to do any myself placing? What the heck is that? What's myself placing?
How do you ever put?
What's the
how do you put on
What's
stop?
the problem with the
How do you put on
stop? What's the problem with the stop? What's the problem with it?
Mechabar.
All right, so what's this?
You didn't put it there.
But no, but the thing is, but the problem is because it's puzzle while it's mechabar. So
Okay.
it has the status of puzzle, and it's like it's not even on there.
Okay, so hold that. That's good. He's gonna say it's like it's not even on there. Really? So take a look at this Rashi. I told you this Rashi is critical. Rashi v'Yosef.
Rabbi Yosef, the Palmer, Haki Ha Ditnan, Oshi Katan Kshera. That Rabbi Yosef says this is like the Mishnah or
Or if you cut it, it's kosher. So Amarav.
Amarav Rav said Allah Nahi De'in Sarech L'Chazor Ula Sosra Kula about Sarech Kula Nanea. That he says
Sas.
Ksas Osam
Shehuschuchu.
Ben Mechubar La'achar Kisisa.
Stop. What does that mean? This is you guys got to have your radar on. I mean, that's why when you do Bekiyas, you rush through this, and you won't realize what Rashi's telling you is absurdly profound. Okay,
You don't
slow.
You don't have to take any of.
Yeah. Well, let's just translate it first. Okay, let's translate word by word.
Yeah.
So, what's Nanua telling you? So, Rav is saying, and I know it's going to be Shmuel in the end, but let's just play with the Rashi. Rashi's saying what? He's saying that the Ein Sarech Lachzor Ulisosra Kula. I don't have to go back and do what?
Take off, remove.
Take everything off,
Yeah.
right? I don't have to take off the vines completely, right? Rather, what do you call it? Rather, about Sarkulananek Sas. So I just have to shake a little bit.
So he's coming in with a premise, though,
Well, what's the premise?
that you have that it's not that you have to place. That's
Oh.
myself.
Get better.
Mice place that. Well, it's not good.
Get better than that. What would you think you have to do initially? Rashi's telling you something
Take it all
amazing.
off.
Exactly. Right. In other words, the logical thing to say is that, and maybe you were picking up on this, the logical thing to say is that, you know what? I put this on top of the sukkah, right? And when I did that, this stuff was not good, right? So what do I have to do? I got to take the whole thing off and start all over again.
Right.
That's the Havamina.
They start all over again.
See that? You see why you have to pick up that sensitivity? Rashi's telling you, you would have thought I got to be soser legamre. Soser means there's on Shabbos binyan, bona, and soser. Bona is to build, soser take apart. I got to remove that which is
Right. Because the movement is.
See, let's read one next line because the Torah says tahave lahu to tahave lo ha'asiya. Okay, now it's because it's going to be like now. Look at his lashon. Tahave lecha.
Can I say it like it was?
Asiya. Asiya. Not because Asiya would have been what?
All
All off and back on again. Asiya. So 1 second. So the question you have to ask is, why don't you have to do stira? What kind of thing is this nanea? What is that?
It's a non-orthodox law.
Balmor.
Balmor, get out of here. Go on. There's no Balmor. Balmor's not going to save you here. All right. Keep going. Back to.
Dila Psula is not puzzle. Mishum Taslov and HeAsui because it's not Taslov and HeAsui. The Haki Ma.
Right, no, right, because what's he saying? So again, carefully, gotta pick every word Rashi here. Again, let's read it again. He says about sarchul and sas osam shehusachu mechubar la'achar ksisasan. So I need to shake, but I gotta raise and lower of those which were attached to the ground, right, from the beginning after I cut them, right? Because this way it'll make them like asiya. The ilo psula mishum taaseh velo min HeAsui. Okay? Because otherwise, what? What are you gonna? In other words, I remove this psul.
Right.
Okay, this psul's gone. But what psul do I still have?
Fill him in a carbon.
Toss him in.
No, I just removed that psul. That's velo min HeKarka. What psul am I left with? Taaseh velo min HeAsui. Okay, so built it. Now this is the beginning of how you have to start thinking abstractly here. In this entity lies two defects. Okay, two defects. One is attached to the ground. The other one is Taaseh velo min HeAsui. Okay. Now let me ask you a question. Who does this become a problem according to?
Second guy that wants to succeed.
Yeah. What does he do about that? What does it do about Taaseh and HeAsui? What's it going to do about that? Okay? You understand why this is such a big area? Okay? All right, keep going back to Rashi.
Oh, this,
What's the drush? The Torah tells you what?
Succa that you made.
Right, because it says
It has to be that you made it.
Sukkos Taaseh. Okay? Right? You should make huts. Okay? Which means what?
That you have to do it.
You have to do an action of making. Right? Kishe'ata ose osa. When you make it, now listen to this. Tehei re'uya l'sukkah. Careful, Rashi saying, when I make my sukkah, that which I use to make it has to be what?
Really?
Right. So
Sviskaf.
right. No. So what? Exactly. So what? Now, did I do a Maisa Asiya? Well, technically, I did do an act of building. I put this on top of here. I did that, right? I put this on top. But what's Rashi telling you? Does that register?
You just do it in the
No,
proper
it's
manner.
just-
You
it's
just
just
do it in
muscle.
the proper manner.
Right. What do you mean by the proper manner? What's lacking in it?
It's
That's
not
not-
Succa.
Right, because it's attached to the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep going.
Velo min HeAsui puzzle she'eno ra'ui l'sukkah that is not fit for sukkah. V'ata mitaknu mitikun muat.
So now, okay, again, he goes back to this point. And now, how do you fix this defect?
You kill him.
what the, like, Chetzi military press?
Tikun muat.
Which
A
is
little fix.
A little fix. It's like it needs a band-aid.
Shtickle,
A shtickle.
Stickle the exploring.
Why should that be the case? Why should that be the case? Why don't you do stira? That's the question you have to ask. What stira is the right? Stira means I should take off all the vines. Keep going to Rashi. Okay.
Kosher that because it's kosher. Mitzitza by cutting below hadar sasa or not afterwards when you just
The v'lohadar sasala, right?
Yeah.
So umiu nanua karov listirahu.
Karo.
Okay, again, Rashi's throwing you all these little crumbs, right?
Yeah. Karo.
Karov
It's like
listira.
Cassia.
Right, yeah. See, that's why you got to learn how to read Rishonim. Every time Rashi says these things, he's trying to tell you, I'm telling you a svara here, right? Tikkun muat, right? Karav l'stira. It's not quite, you're not really taking everything off. But why is it karav l'stira? So finish it up. Shemat bia.
Shemavia kol echad levado menicho lechozer umapia et chaveru umenicho.
Because what am I doing? I have to literally lift up every single vine. Okay? But one second. So if I already have to lift up every vine, so why don't you say do complete stira? Wouldn't that be the better approach to take? Just
Yeah.
take the whole thing off and start all over again.
You're saying in terms of easiness or like fulfillment?
Conceptual.
It's the same exact thing, it seems.
What?
Take the whole thing off.
Oh, that's see. Whenever someone uses terms like karov l'stira or tikkun muad, you gotta start asking yourself,
What's
well,
it?
Mimanashach, what is it?
Yeah.
You can't play both
He's
sides.
saying that's enough. That's what he's saying.
Why should it? But,
No, but-
what does
Yeah, why
enough
is it
mean?
enough? You're saying why
What
is
does
it
enough
enough?
mean? What does
You're saying
enough
how's it
mean?
enough?
What does enough mean?
You're saying how's that enough?
Why? But one second. We know the chiyuv is again. I'm just dealing with the facts we have up to this point. The Torah says Sukkot Taaseh. All right, make sukkah. Okay. So one second. That means I can't use that, which is HeAsui, which was already made. So I can't use this, right?
Ooh,
Okay.
you would
Well, let me
relax,
rephrase.
yeah, relax.
I built it with this. I built it. When I built it, this was not good to use. Okay. Cutting it does what?
Making it good to use.
No, not according to this side.
It just detaches it from the ground.
Thank you.
Right.
It just removes it from the ground. It removes the psul. But what about? But now all along, since this thing was inappropriate to be used to begin with, it's been sitting on there. So I got to do a taaseh now.
Right.
Take
So all of a sudden now he says, the taaseh you do. Give me the voice. Right. Right. Little Carlos Sierra. I don't have to sit there and take the whole thing off. Why not? Why not? The smarter road to go down is the Havmina, Maisa Stira. Okay?
Amalei Rav Huna Ha Shmuel Amra Aha Darvinhu Rabbi Yosef Ba'afei.
Well, you read it a little too fast. But it's okay. Keep going. Come on. Let's just push to the next part. Okay? I'll explain to you what he says in a second.
V'amalei Atu Mi Kamina Lecha Zulo Amra Shmuel Amra Rav Amra Shmuel Amra Le Rav Huna Hachi Kamina Lecha Shmuel Amra Lo Rav Akshure Mikasher.
Stop. So ultimately, what is the whole point of this Gemara? At the end of the day, it's to tell you what? To tell you just to arrange the sheetas properly.
Why was he angry?
That's a good question. I never answered that. That's a good question. Why I got angry about it. There is so far you can always take from that, but that's like not related to this. But
Yeah, I get that.
no, it's a good question. Like, why? Because what he made the wrong assumption. Okay, relax. It's learning. But what do we care? What do we care about is this? What we care about is Rav holds ksitza, right? Shmuel holds nanua. Okay, Rav holds ksitza. Everyone clear with that?
Yeah.
All right. Now comes let's do the equivalent case. Go.
Okay.
Sorry, maybe that you should-
Amar Shmuel, Ki Hav de Rav Amram Chasida.
So who was Rav Amram? He's a good guy. Oh, what's that? I'm sorry. We skipped something. Go to Akshuri Maksha. Look at Rashi. Below.
Below Nune.
So again, Rashi's very specific. Without doing what? According to Rav, I don't have to do nanua. Why?
The old cutting. Kasisa Su.
Gemar.
Gamar Asiyas.
Whoa! Another curveball, right?
Oh my.
Gemar. Asiyasa. So when I go ahead and cut it, right? So remember, he's got to deal with the fact that Taaseh Velo and HeAsui. How's he going to get out of that problem? Very simple. I cut it. So what does cutting it do? Completes the. Okay,
Does
so
that imply that-
no. What does that mean? What does that mean?
So
It
he's saying
wasn't,
only one
it wasn't a
stop.
suit before.
Right, it was never Asui.
Yeah.
Right. So what does it mean? What does Gemar Asiyas in here mean? Just give me like a conceptual
sure.
thing.
You're making
What's it
Taaseh,
literally
like
mean?
Taaseh.
What are you finishing? Finishing what?
Finishing schaf.
What?
It's finishing schaf.
So what does it mean? He's finishing his stuff.
He's saying that there's only one psul
So it's-
schaf.
The process, right? Because what did he do in the beginning? That's I know what you're saying. Don't relax. But what was he doing in the beginning? I put the vines on top. So my Taaseh
You already
started.
put it on top.
Now I put it on top. So my Taaseh started. The removal of the psul is the
There's both now. Now you have both, even though it wasn't the proper man, you still have both.
correct. And what is cutting it do? It removes the psul.
Yeah, what the heck is this mina asui then?
Well, we have to understand that. We have to understand what Taaseh means and below what Asui means. Okay?
A few good men.
Here we go.
Right. I remember that.
Good movie.
Vehechi dami.
Dami, and this is what he said. This is what it's similar to. What it's saying. Tasev lo Masui, Kigon Hachutit Bigadish. That he's compared to when
You guys remember what's Chodei Begadish?
the
haystack.
Right. So you carve out. Yeah, you dig out in a big haystack just for
Yeah, there's a picture.
here. It's a great picture. I make a succa out of my haystack. Now, obviously, here, this is considered kasher schach. Okay, so I dig out an area for myself. What's the problem with that? Well, okay, but you'll see. It's not so simple. But whatever, not so simple. That's why it's very careful. I didn't jump into that sugya yet. What?
The whole sukkah is made out of that material.
Which is fine. You can use
I realized
that.
that wasn't a problem when I said that.
Oh yeah. All right, okay. Good. So keep going to Rashi, right? So that's what he does, right? Shasichu chayam elav, right? So what does that mean? Shasichu chayam elav. It was already there. In other words, when I dig out this hole here, so to speak, the schach was always there all along. You understand what that means? Again, think abstractly for a second. Let's pretend in your brain for a second. You're looking at a haystack that's whole. Okay, a whole haystack, right? So now in your mind, you picture I'm going to take this area out,
Carving, yeah. but
the roof's always there. The roof was always there to begin with, even though before you carved it out, there was actually no roof because it was one entity. But what it's saying is that abstractly speaking, the idea of the schach exists in some sort of potentia, and I actualize it by carving out the space.
Right.
You understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, so all along the schach was there. Me'elav, it was there all along. Okay? Keep going. And he doesn't have to do anything, right? Ela poches achas midefonosav, right? What does he have to do?
It's less than one of the walls.
Well, no, what does that mean though?
One of the walls.
Open up one of the. So if I come across a haystack, right? That's whole, right? I got myself a sukkah potentia. So all I got to do is what? Make a place for myself to actually be able to live. Knock down the front wall of the haystack, so to speak. Dig in.
But you didn't do anything with the scarf, you just made them nice.
But that's what I know. But that's what Rav is such a great position. What's Rav saying? What's Rav saying? Why is Rav's kasha good kasha? Go, just let Dave finish, and you'll see why. Go, Dave, finish. He goes into the hole, right? That's sukkah nasas me'alea. Dov nosea v'sachacha. So the problem with chotei begadish should be what? The problem would be all along that what?
Sock's already there.
The schach's already there. So that's the real case of Taaseh and HeAsui, right? The real case is I can't do that. I can't dig a hole in the haystack and because the socks right there. And there's
This is no real-
no. What's the key though? By the haystack, what can't I do? There's no what?
You can't lift up those.
There's no remedy. Keep that in mind
Well, you can always
for the
cut
next
it.
in 2 weeks from now.
You can
Keep
cut
that in
it.
mind.
You can cut it.
No,
I'm not
there's no
sure I
remedy.
believe
There's
it.
no remedy by the case of the hay. You'll see why. There's no remedy for the haystack. That's the case. There's no remedy.
So you cut the whole haystack.
There's no lifting.
Okay.
No lifting possible. Well, think about it. How would you be able to lift it?
And then you can.
Part I do.
It wouldn't matter. It's all attached to each other.
No. You cut it.
Rashi ends up. Let me just finish. Rashi ends up saying. He says at the end, "This is the when you cut it. That is the action.
Taaseh.
Shelo shenigbar b'hechsher.
It's the Taaseh.
Right. So it's finishing off the process. Amram, who seems like he was a good guy, he did what?
Yeah, the citrus.
Well, tchelas, right?
Yeah.
But what was he doing? So let's look at the case here. If you guys can see it. So you have your corners of your tzitzis garment with the hole, right? So what does he do? So he runs the strings through. It's better to draw it, but basically, I don't want to draw. But anyway, it's like this. In other words, I have my hole here. I run my strings like loops, okay? And then what do I do? Doesn't matter how many. Whatever. You're right. 4 loops. Yeah, he's got a good picture over there. But what do? I cut, right? So why is that? What am I thinking of doing? I'm being a smart guy. Because why? What? Okay, Taaseh and Asui, right? Taaseh and Asui. By cutting it, what have I done by cutting it? No, I know, but I'm saying, what do I now have? I have 8 strings. Okay, good. So look at the case.
8, whatever.
Stop throwing Taaseh and Asui at me. All right, so what do you do? Ramat chelesa le parzuma, which is what? Her coat, her garments.
Her apron. That's
Apron, whatever. Okay?
That's what we
The
want.
inchi base of his wife's aprons. Rashi, the latalis ishto.
Listen, they were to
Latalis ishto.
Oh, the talis ishto for the his wife.
It's a first web line in Rashi.
Layla.
Lila,
is my sister. That you hold that.
who?
Who?
So now this is a completely separate issue, but he says, Rashi explains that he had a in
This
Shishita.
still goes by Lila.
Yeah, this is a Mr. Sisters at night,
That's
right? Because it's, one second, what about U'isem Oso? It says, Rashi says U'isem Oso, Prat,
Yeah.
the Susumo, which means, no, it's not excluding when I can see it, it's excluding, no, when you can't, when a blind guy can't, a blind guy won't be Chayav in Tzitzis. Because how can you do U'isem Oso? If you can't see it, you're Pater. Okay?
I had to get out of everything.
That's a so it's Lila Chayav, right? So of course, what's the consequence of saying you have to wear them at night? Then you lose the mitzvah Yishman Grama, and now woman's chayav and tzitzis. So what was he doing? Rav Amram was making tzitzis for his
Woman.
wife. Beautiful, right? Okay. I'm not taking up the sugya whatsoever of women being chayav and tzitzis. Go on. So what do you do? Tzla on Gemara. Velo. Okay, exactly how I described it. Look at Rashi. Tzlan. So he ran one string through one of the corners of the talis, right? Kafel, wrapped over 4 times. And then he runs it through the corner like that picture, just like that picture. The left one, not the right one, the left one. No, the other one. The other one. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
And 8 foldings. The posig Rashi, and he cut the first one. The Nasin.
The Russian Shalahan. Basically the heads of them. What does that mean? It means he picked the points. The tips, but there's no real tip if it's doubled over. So he's saying the end of the end.
Hold it taut.
Yeah, but at the end, it's here is where he cut.
Yeah.
At this point, okay. Keep going.
So the Nasin Shmona Chutin 8 strings. Rav Amram Shechach Velo Paskin, and Amram forgot.
The little paskin he didn't cut ad.
Ad She'aseh Kol Hagdilim Vakrim until all the I don't know what the dealing were.
The Gdilim Kshem, all the knots, everything was done. In other words, he designed the wraparounds and the knots were completed. So he made it tzitzis, and all of a sudden, after making his strings into tzitzis, in other words, everything's there. He's only missing one thing. What's he missing? Independent strings. In other words, he does all the knots. Where's the picture? The article's got a beautiful picture. See, look, if you see the picture here, he made the little guys over here, little knots, the Gedilim and Sharon, right? But he's left with these loops. He's left with these loop strings. So what does he have to do?
Cut them.
He has to cut them, but he forgot to cut them in the beginning. Okay, so now what does Rashi say?
The name says Astrian,
Bipsul.
Psul.
So therefore, what does it show you? That there were strings already were put in incorrectly, right?
De'in ba elachut echad ve'atza l'kam.
Because you really had one string all along. In other words, even though I doubled over my string multiple times, how many strings do I actually have? Echad, one,
Yes.
right? One. Until I do what? Cut them. So what does this sound like?
Taaseh and HeAsui.
Okay, but of course, Taaseh and
Sounds like
HeAsui
that case.
is a principle. Does it apply to tzitzis?
Maybe.
Maybe. Keep going. Yeah, I don't think the Gemara would bring any evidence. No? It's a safe bet.
Velo Taaseh Rashi Chutin Shalahan, and he cut the heads of.
Right, so also the Kamid Rav Chia, right? Bar Ashi.
Amar Le Haki Kamar was saying.
Haki Amarav.
Amar Mafasek v'Hank Sharon that he cut them and it was kosher.
Alma.
Alma Psikatan Zuhi Asiyasan Hachanami Kasisan Zuhi Asiyasan.
Okay, so beautiful. So now everything works out. But now Rav is perfect. Why? Rav is a good proof. You see that the same way I can take my tzitzis, right? I can put them through as one string. I can cut them at the end. And remember, when they're one string, right, it's puzzle. When I cut them, they turn into 8. And now what do I have? Kasha tzitzis. Psikasan zu asiyasan. Tzitzasan zu asiyasan. Clear?
Yeah.
All right? So the Gemara is going to the case of tzitzis to produce a perfect parallel. All right? Everyone clear about that?
Yeah.
Tzitzis is just like... What about Shmuel? What's Shmuel going to hold? All right?
Shmuel has the thing with
What does Shmuel do about tzitzis? I don't know. Well, we'll see.
Because his view on the Succa thing is you have to pick it up and...
Right. So could you do, according to Shmuel at this point, could you do what Rav Amram did?
Oh yeah, why not?
What do you mean? Why yes?
There's no idea.
Nah.
The knots were tied
No.
before it. I'm just reading.
It's got
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be
yeah.
first place.
What?
It's got to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Kind of cheating, but yeah.
That's fine. You can cheat. Go on, Dave.
Savar Shmuel Amrina Psikasan Zuhi Asiyasan.
So he'll say no. He'll say Psikasan is what?
The Hatani Shmuel Bishum Rakia Hatil Ishnas Karnos Vivas Achas.
What was I saying? So maybe you'll say the machlokes is simple. Maybe Shmuel holds, right? Psikasan is not Asiyasan, which would be nice and easy. But of course, what would be the tikkun according to Shmuel by the tzitzis?
There wouldn't.
The wouldn't be. All right? And here there's a tikkun. It's not nua. Okay, fine. Is that clear?
Yeah.
I don't want to get too bogged down in tzitzis stuff, but there's one svar we got to pull out of it at the end. Not today.
That could work.
No. You'll see. You'll see. Keep going in the Gemara. The hat ni Shmuel mishum Rav Chia. We see there's going to be a problem. Shmuel and Shmuel himself. Okay.
Hatil Ishnas Karnos.
The Shnei.
Shnei Karnos Vivas Achas. V'achar kach psak Rashi Chutin Shalahan Kshirin.
Okay, so what's that case? Okay, what's that case? Rashi.
2 corners.
2 corners. Okay, so in that case, let me see. Let me give me the Gemara for a second. I don't know if you guys can see it on here, but as what is it? Yeah, this is a great way to look at it. Look at this here. Okay.
How many strings to make 8?
Right. So he takes one overall. He takes one string, doubles it over, and then doubles that over, and then runs it through both 2 holes.
2 corners.
Okay. 2 corners. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you see that? That's what he has. Okay. So now, what does Shmuel hold there? Right. In that case, right. Sharon. So he holds Abi Kasher. You understand why it's a kasha?
Yeah.
Why? Okay.
It's exactly
Same
the same thing.
case. In other words, the first case was I do a wrap around through 1 hole, right? And if I cut it, Shmuel holds that's a problem.
Oh, I see.
This is through 2 holes. For some reason, Shmuel holds 2 holes would not be a problem. Why not? Keep going in the Gemara.
Problem based off of what?
What?
It's different case. Different
The
case.
principle that renders.
Oh, we change the facts. What?
Right. The principle that renders it a problem is called what though again?
Psikasan zu asiasan or psikasan lo zu asiasan?
Which means.
Cutting it, does it make it into the thing, or does cutting it not do anything?
Okay.
Okay, keep going.
My love, Shikosher V'achar Kosek Lo.
No, so is it that he tied and then cut it, or
that he Posek V'achar Kosher that he cut it and then afterwards he tied it.
okay? So that must be the case. That what did he do? He tied it. He cut it and then tied it. But 1 second, posek v'achar kosher. 1 second. But if that's the case, if they, or what's Shmuel saying? Shmuel's saying no. It wasn't that I forgot to cut it, right? Tied it first and then I left it whole strings because that's be a violation. So what must the case be? I tied it. I cut it first.
And then he tied it.
But of course, what's the question then?
Well,
It's like the first case.
No, it's, what do you mean?
No.
The Tikkun is tying it.
No, there's no he did it perfectly fine.
Yeah.
There's no chiddush there. In other words, if I take strings that are separated previously and then make knots out of them, what have I done? Kasher tzitzis. So what's the chiddush? So the Gemara says, posek v'archak kosher, ma'ila memra. So what do you learn from that? So ma'u desema, whenever the Gemara says ma'u desema, what does that tell you?
You might have thought.
Which means what?
There's a havamina.
Havamina. So the Gemara said, you might have thought what? You might have thought
Turn page.
ba'inan.
Vina kanaf b'shas hasil deleka kamasalan.
You may have thought you need what? Knaf. You're good with that. Knaf b'shas psil.
Then to be set at the time you put them in.
Okay. So the question is, you might have thought what? That when I actually start putting the string in, what has to be done?
Has to be tied.
Has to be
Separate.
separated. Okay. Look at Rashi. B'shah sheposlo at the time, not poslo with the samach, with the taf, right? At the time that I put it through, right? Shetola bo hapsilim ba'inen kanaf echad lo shnayim. So basically, what he's saying is like this: I can't, even if I have separate strings, you might have thought, can I make two knafayim at once with separate strings? That's the question. It's not a question of I have whole strings that I cut with the two knafayim, but can I make an entire set of tzitzis? Can I like streamline the process? Make two at once. You understand? All right? No? Don't worry about it.
No, I got it.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
This isn't that important for now. We'll define this later. Okay? All right. That's the end of the Gemara. So what are the main questions we have? Let's go back to the beginning. What are the main questions we have? What's the main questions?
Why don't you have to do so, sir?
Okay, that's one question. Well, what's the most basic question? Let's get the most basic question now. What's the most basic question here? I know we pushed a lot to that. I want you guys to think about this. I don't want to define this yet. What?
The Taaseh?
Well, what's the machlokas?
Oh,
Okay, first question is,
yeah,
what's the machlokas Rav and Shmuel? Now, within each position, let's investigate each position. Each position has strengths and weaknesses, correct?
Yeah.
Each position has strengths and weaknesses. Forget the tzitzit stuff. Get to the Gemara. Let's just focus on Succa now. Tell me, what are Shmuel's strengths and weaknesses, and what's Rav's? The initial way to approach this is start figuring out what do you like about each side. So give me, who wants to go first? What side makes more sense, Shmuel or Rav?
Well, I don't know who holds what.
Rav holds, cutting it, I'm good to go. Shmuel holds, cutting it's not enough, I got to do this business. Okay? So let's start organizing it. Okay? Organize it, yeah.
I like Shmuel's better.
Shmuel, why?
Because
So Ezra wants to propose, the good part about Shmuel is that you're doing something. But of course, now what's the weak side to that?
all the weak
Why
side
do you do
is
something?
Why do you need to do that?
No, I'd say the opposite end. Not why do you do that, but why? What? You want to do stira. Want to do stira,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
okay, but then Rav though, I could say that
Would have
the
both
Ma'aseh
combined.
Maniach was
What?
the
You
Ma'aseh
already
Maniach-
have both combined, so why you have to do the listing again?
Right, no, that's good. He's right. In other words, Rav is saying the very action here does two things at once.
Yeah.
Okay? And he's saying it's Gemar Asiya, right? So, but this is what's been so hard to define. According to Rav, it's Gemar Asiya. I mean, I've completed the Maisa, the action I initially did. Why isn't Shmuel like that? Shmuel doesn't like that.
Because you didn't
Yes,
do
it's
that,
not
the
possible.
actual Ma'aseh Maniach.
I didn't do an actual Maisa, but so then what's Rav going to say?
But you already
So
put it on
Rav's
top,
gonna
so
say
you already
no.
did it.
I already did the Ma'aseh Maniach, and Sisa was emerged.
So what's also strange about Rav? But what's strange about that though? What's strange about Rav? What's strange about Rav? Stop it! I'm going to kill you. What's strange about Rav?
He doesn't care about Taaseh.
It's more than that. You're right. He does care enough because he says it's Gemar Asiyasam. What's strange about that?
He says
though?
that's HeAsui.
When I put, according to Rav, when I put my slach puzzle on top of the sukkah, what have I done according to Rav?
Okay.
You made it, but not in
Yes,
Taaseh.
yes.
You
HeAsui.
started the process.
Started the process, but isn't that strange?
According to Rav?
What kind of idea is that?
Not
Yeah.
according to Rav, according to the
Yeah.
guy.
No, according to Rav. What kind of things did I start the process? One second. What process? What are you talking about? This is stuck to the ground. Maybe I'll disconnect it. Maybe I won't. What kind of things is that to start the
Because
process?
it has he must hold that the potential of his scarf was always this.
That's a funny. Yes. Now remember what's you got to keep this in mind in order to define this. Remember what's going on here. You have two converging issues. Two issues that this is the difficulty here. Two issues that converge. Issue number one is the psul being mechuber to the aretz.
Right.
Issue number two is asui. Okay, two issues that they're converging in this case. This is always difficult in Gemara. We have two issues that converge. How do you handle this? Okay, so.